Guys, it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. Today's video is another recommendation style video. I have a collection of books I'm so excited about. Specifically, they're books that I think will blow your mind. They all have a fast-paced plot, really like ambiguous directions, and I found for all of them to have a very satisfying and unexpected ending. But before we dive into the books themselves, first a word from this video's sponsor, which is Glasses USA. Probably one of my most asked questions via DM, comments is, where are my glasses from? Well, friends, they're all from one singular place. I have been getting all of my glasses from Glasses USA for years. They are my #1 place to shop for new frames, both regular glasses and sunglasses. They have an unbeatable selection of thousands of different options, plus incredible prices that they're able to achieve by cutting out the middleman. Shopping online is also incredibly convenient. They're all shipped directly to my door, hassle-free, and they have incredible tools like the online try-on tool to see what the frames look like on yourself before you actually buy them. I, of course, have a special offer for you guys. If you click the link in my description, you'll be able to shop their site, plus all the glasses I'm about to feature in this video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into my frames. The first frame I'm about to show off needs no introduction. I decided it was about time I got a refreshed frame of my everyday eyeglass. I just wanted a new, clean, fresh pair, and that is the Ray-Ban RX3447V. This particular version of it is in the medium lens size with the tortoise rim. I love this pair of glasses. I'm basically wearing this frame every single day almost, and this particular style I thought would be fun with the tortoise rim. I thought would be great going into the fall season. I love this eyeglass frame. It is perfectly lightweight. I love the size. I love the shape. It is supreme in my opinion. The next pair I picked out is a fantastic budget option, and it comes in so many different shades and colors to pick from, and that is the Pierre Otto. I got the clear beige and tortoise option because I just like tortoise and I like a clear frame, but again, there's so many different colors. This is a classic eyeglass. It has a fantastic weight and size, and I love the shape, and I feel like it'd be flattering on so many different types of faces. This is also a great one to grab on offer as well. Truly a fantastic deal. And then the last pair of glasses I'm going to show off are actually a pair of sunglasses, another one of my everyday wears, and that is the Amelia E. Vivan frame. These are incredible. So fantastic that I actually own it, not only in the tortoise shade, and that I wear every day basically. I also decided to add to my arsenal a white color. I mean, how cute are these? I just think the shape of these are so flattering, and I love that they're trendy but still very classic. I feel finding like trendier sunglasses to be a little bit harder, especially with a prescription, but Glasses USA has so many fantastic options to shop. Alrighty guys, that is my Glasses USA glasses haul. Again, I'll have all the frames I featured down below, as well as a special offer code for you guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the book recommendations. The first book that immediately comes to mind, and is one of my favorite reasons why I love this series, is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. But if you're not familiar, the Expanse series is a space opera tale, and we're following a variety of characters with different political affiliations, jobs, and even like locations within space. This is set in a world where there are different governments on Earth, Mars, and an area called the Belt, which is a collection of different space stations. And there has been a significant amount of tension that has existed between all of these different interplanetary governments. One could even describe the situation to be a tinderbox waiting to explode. Enter one of our main characters, Jim Holden, essentially acts as the spark to create outright war between all of these different groups of people. He and his crew stumble upon a weird piece of technology that people have already killed for and would continue to do so. This sends Jim and his crew on an unexpected adventure to try to save the system itself. But outside of Jim, we also follow a detective that lives on the Belt, and he was hired by a very wealthy family to locate their lost daughter, who's also a space pilot, and the paths of Jim and Detective Miller begin to intersect in very unlikely ways. The thing about the Expanse series is that is the synopsis of book 1, but again, it really begins to balloon. The intensity, the politics, the combat are all out of this world, quite literally. I really feel like the authors do a fantastic job with each installment creating kind of a macro level and a micro level problem, making you feel very connected to the characters and this sort of smaller level storyline while still being like drawn in by this huge issue that seems to be plaguing the system itself. Each book has really grown on itself so well, and honestly, each one has also kept me on the edge of my seat. If you want a plot forward story, this is a great series to check out. And I also feel like the sci-fi element of this book is incredibly approachable, so a great place to also start in the genre. Speaking of sci-fi, the next book I have to recommend is Rosewater by Tad Thompson. This was a recent read for me, and honestly, I can say it was both so bizarre but so gripping and just a wholly unique reading experience. But this is a alien technology like first touch sci-fi novel, meaning a piece of alien technology has come to Earth, completely changing the fabric of our society, government, and how the world is now interacting with each other. Specifically, this novel is set in a establishment called Rosewater. There's basically this mysterious biodome which has touched down in Nigeria, and this dome has mysterious healing powers. With its arrival, there was also the creation of some individuals having like extra sensory abilities. They can kind of touch minds and kind of have a secondary space that they're able to exist in. Enter our main character Cairo, who is not only a sensitive himself, but he was also once a criminal but has now been recruited by the government. He is a government agent, and he has been put on a case to start investigating why sensitives like himself are suddenly dying off. This book is a ride from beginning to end. Not only is the sci-fi element of this so unique, it's also just very, very smart. I think slowly trying to understand this sci-fi world is one of the most fun parts of reading this book. Trying to get a handle on this new alien technology is not only a goal of ours as the reader, but also everyone else in this world, and we are kind of learning as everyone else is. Not to mention structurally how this book is written will keep you turning the pages. We're following our main character Cairo, but we are kind of shifting to different chapters of his life. Sometimes we'll be in the present, sometimes we'll be in his childhood, sometimes we're at the beginning of his career as a government agent. All of these chapters are not told linearly. In fact, we're kind of just jumping around from different experiences, creating this heightened level of anxiety because you get the sense that all of these different moments in his life is feeding into this larger issue, which we're also trying to understand. And watching all of these things kind of culminate into a very explosive ending was fantastic. The author just has a skill at creating a really gripping storyline. I've read some of his other space thrillers, and this really has a great combination of like a procedural cop drama almost, as we're following someone trying to solve why people are dying off, but adding so many new layers, not only sci-fi, but just literary as well. The book was truly so good, and the blurb on the back, I think, says it best. This book will eat you alive and you'll like it. Next up, I have a traditional thriller option to check out, and that is The 22 Murders of Madison May by Max Barry. I love Max Barry, and if you're looking for an author which will consistently blow your mind, his backlog of titles is a great place to check out, but this is his most recent release, and it was honestly so fantastic as well. This is a story that combines, again, a thriller murder mystery component with sci-fi and parallel worlds and lives. So it's kind of like a sci-fi thriller, and it touches on a lot of really cool topics like time travel and secret organizations, which I always think is great. But at the beginning of the story, we're introduced to Madison May, a young real estate agent in New York City. And at the beginning of this book, she is showing a house in Queens, New York. At the beginning of her open house, a strange man arrives and basically tells her that they're soulmates, that they're in love. He comes from another timeline, and he has to listen to her to save her life. Fast forward to later in the day, journalist Felicity is assigned to a story basically documenting the murder of Madison May, which happened earlier in the day. As Felicity begins to dive deeper into this murder case, she kind of begins to realize that there is something much larger going on, again, dealing more so with secret societies, possible parallel existences, and a murderer kind of shifting through time and space. This book is so gripping, so intense and also like very eerie. It has some components of almost like of a slasher or a horror novel, at least for me. I am a wimp, I will say, but for me it felt that way. And I felt like there was also instances specifically that you see in like scary movies that were playing out within this book. Always had this like larger sci-fi thread running through the narrative book, made it compulsive to read. I couldn't put this book down. I read it in like 24 hours, and I will say the end reveal and overall wrap up of this book was super satisfying. I'm obviously trying to be as vague as possible here because it's a thriller, and I feel like the experience of a thriller is the synopsis and the end. So if you're intrigued by this synopsis, I highly recommend checking this book out because I thought the end was great. Next up, I actually have a literary fiction option for you, a bit of a surprise in my opinion, and that is The Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. I love Emily St. John Mandel. It's no secret. I think her writing and her characterization is just fantastic. Station 11 is probably still my favorite book of hers, but each of her new novels, which do have like ties to each previous work, has also just been a fantastic experience. Her newest release, The Sea of Tranquility, was kind of unique in comparison to her other works because it did have this sort of like sci-fi future point of view, and that the author was trying to explain a possible future that she could see for humanity if we continue to move in certain directions. But there is a sense of eeriness and time that exists within this book as well, that you feel with each point of view a little unsettled as you read along. But a little more about the book itself. The Sea of Tranquility and Emily St. John Mandel's classic style is following a huge cast of characters, and each POV feels very isolated and specific to their own individual experiences. But what this author does so well is kind of connect all of these threads of all of these different characters' lives in a very satisfying and unexpected way, creating this like larger tapestry of human experience. But what's very unique about this book is the timeline that we're existing in is very, very long. We kind of start at the turn of the century, but we move like 400 years in the future to a moon colony, and trying to see how all of these different characters connect is fascinating and also, in my opinion, mind-blowing. I will also say this does, again, have a heavier element of sci-fi, also has some really cool meta moments as well, making this book really hard to put down and almost having, again, like a thriller component, but all of this is wrapped up in stunning writing, stunning character work, which I think just creates a very unique and cool reading experience. I loved this book, I love this author, and I thought this book was honestly a bit mind-blowing as well. Next up, I have a few fantasy recommendations because fantasy's my favorite, that's how I feel, and I thought all of these books were really mind-blowing and plot forward. The first is The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. I love this debut. I think this could be a fantastic like serialized cop drama turned on its head in like a fantasy setting. Investigation component, the whodunit component not only make this book addicting, but I truly could not guess where it was going at all. The Justice of Kings is set in a fantasy world that's kind of on the brink of revolution. There is a lot of unrest. In this world, there are individuals called justices, which are given the power by the king to basically investigate crimes and also act kind of as the judge and executioner in certain situations. One of our main characters, Sir Conrad van Volt, is one of these justices, and he's considered like one of the best in the land and also the most powerful with his own magical abilities. But this story is not told by Sir Conrad van Volt's character, but is in fact told by his assistant justice, who at the beginning of this book is like just starting her apprenticeship. The book itself is actually written far in the future as this character, who has now become a full-fledged justice, is kind of reflecting on her life and her career and this one specific case that kind of kicked off the chaos that basically took over this entire land. This narrative choice creates great humor and also a narrator that's able to reflect on their choices, giving the audience, giving the readers like kind of different points of views and different ways to interpret situations, which I think was divine. Outside of just the great writing, great characters, and compulsive storyline, we also just had a plot that was great. Our characters are investigating a crime in the countryside, quickly realize that this crime seems to be a much larger conspiracy involving much more powerful figures at play, but seeing how everything is connected and also the level that it balloons to was so good, and truly a book that I could not guess a single thing that was going to happen. It was amazing. I can't wait to read more books in this series. series. I want to watch this cast of characters just move across the countryside, solve crimes, try to prevent aristocratic greed. I'm a fan, and I'm a fan of this book. The next book shouldn't be too much of a surprise because this story blew my mind in every way possible, and that is the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, first book to the Broken Earth trilogy. It's hard for me to express just how incredible this book is. It's one of those stories I feel like you just have to pick up and experience yourself. To say this book blew my mind is truly an understatement. From the plot over the course of the entire trilogy, I could never even begin to guess where it was going. N.K. Jemisin did some things with fantasy, with plot, with just messing with me and characters, but also the writing and the literary structure of this series, particularly seen in book 1, is just such a unique experience, and for me personally, it blew my mind. In that this story is told in second person, which you really don't come across very often, and the choice to do it was just fantastic, and in my opinion worked so well. The Broken Earth trilogy is set in a world where humanity is always on the brink of catastrophe. Civilization-ending natural disasters occur rather regularly, from ginormous earthquakes to tsunamis. Civilization has ended over and over again. Due to this, humanity has kind of evolved in a way where their communities are very small, everyone has very specific rules, and like writing things down is very key in terms of passing important information on to when destruction inevitably strikes once again. Also in this world, there are individuals who can actually harness the Earth's power, but instead of being viewed as possible heroes, they are really viewed with a lot of suspicion and also distaste by society. Their power and their magic is controlled very strictly by the government, and in this book we follow 3 main characters. First is a woman on a quest trying to find her lost daughter, another is a young apprentice just kind of getting her start with her magical career, and lastly a young girl just beginning her training in her magic itself. This book is amazing. Outside of just the explosive fantasy plot, the conversations that N.K. Jemisin has on topics such as race, identity, sexuality, motherhood, just truly fantastic. This is by far and away one of my favorite fantasy series. It blew my mind when I read it. I read all 3 back to back to back. I could not put it down. I needed to know what was going to happen next, and I can wholeheartedly say I never guessed it. And then the last series I'm gonna recommend is the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee, another beloved fantasy series by me personally. And this is another fantastic plot-forward urban fantasy story as well. Not only destroy you emotionally, give you fantastic characters, but just the twists and turns of the plot throughout each installment is just incredible and was one of the best rides ever. The amount of gasping I did while reading this trilogy definitely makes it deserve its spot on this list. But if you're not familiar, the Greenbone Saga is an Asian-inspired urban fantasy story, and it's set on the fictional island of Kekon. Here, jade rules. Basically, some individuals born in this area are able to wear jade, and when they do, they become faster, stronger, and more powerful. Mining, selling, and just the overall control of this jade market is done so by 2 very powerful crime families, which basically control every aspect of life within this city as well. 2 crime families have kind of been in a cold war for a few decades, but that conflict is beginning to heat up. In the Greenbone Saga, we follow a huge cast of characters, but primarily figures all centered in the Cow family, is the family controlling one of these very powerful crime syndicates. We follow characters at different ranks, kind of as their rise up, and through each installment in this trilogy, we follow a huge swath of time and just see the evolution of so many different politics and conflicts, not only between these 2 families, other international political interests as well. The execution of this is just top notch, so intense, it's so plot forward, it has so many twists and turns, but at the heart of it, it also has such fantastic characters you will fall in love with, and also characters you will hate with every fiber of your soul, which just makes it such an engaging and fantastic read. Each book blew my mind multiple times, it also broke my heart multiple times, and was just truly one of my favorite reading experiences ever. Guys, those are 7 books that I think will blow your mind. Again, big shout out to this video's sponsor, which is Glasses USA. Again, I will have a link to all of my frames as well as a special offer code listed down below, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!